And without any further delay, we're going to go ahead and get started. We are going to be hearing from Chris Phillips. And he's going to be talking to us. Let's see. I'm just going to read what we have here. Okay. So do you have dreams of doing what you love every day? Chris Phillips has been living that dream through the wildly popular Spurs Up Show. So join us for an authentic and unscripted conversation about marrying his passions for storytelling and sports into one of the fastest growing content companies in South Carolina. You'll get a sneak peek inside the daily life of a content creator and strategies that go into building a successful business from the ground up. So let's go ahead and welcome Chris. Yes. Thank you. Here you go.
Thank you. Good morning. Appreciate y'all braving the cold. I promise I won't keep you out here too long. First off, I want to say thank you to Greg Hilton, Matt Vady, the entire Growth Summit team for putting on a great event. And I'm truly looking forward to, I feel the same way that I did when I went to SEC Media Days back in Nashville, Tennessee over the summer. And the most rewarding part of that event, we got to meet coaches, players, had a great time, but the people that I met and interacted with and the relationships that I created that I still have to this day, and the doors that were opened because of that for all of us was by far the most rewarding part of that experience. So I expect these 2 days to be nothing short of the same, and again, truly grateful for the opportunity to grace the stage and interact with so many fantastic entrepreneurs and people as well, especially in the great city of Columbia, South Carolina, where my business really got off the ground. But we go back to the beginning, and before I do, I want to start with something that dawned on me this morning, something I've read before, and my goal and objective of this, I heard or read one time, your passion is for you, your purpose is for others. And so I want to start with that because my goal and objective of what I'm about to say is if there's somebody out there, you're thinking about doing something you love or becoming an entrepreneur, maybe you're on that path and on that journey, maybe you hear something that sparks a fire in you and you realize that instead of going straight, I can go left, I can go right, I can do something differently, I can start today, or I can continue on my journey, I can make it to tomorrow and the next day and the next step. So really excited to be here, and starting with Start From Zero. I loved that title. I love that title they picked up because I think my greatest advantage in my entrepreneurial journey was the fact that I did start from zero. I go back to 2016. I'm living in Charlotte, North Carolina, working in sales and digital marketing. It's funny, you have to get what you think you want to realize it never was what you wanted. I thought I wanted to work in the city wearing a suit and tie, probably not as flashy as this one, but a suit and tie, working in the cubicle. And for some people, that's great. For some people, that fuels them, inspires them, and it's a noble life, puts food on the table, obviously. But for me, I was empty. I was not fulfilled. I was, dare I say, miserable as a human being. I was also broke, which can lead to misery for sure. And I was looking for that next thing. I was a college athlete at Newberry College, just up the road, played college baseball. And after that ended, I was looking for that next grind, that next thing, that next passion. And I just didn't find it in the corporate world or what have you. And for years, I was trying to find that next thing, What am I going to do? My 20s, I'm 32 now, but my 20s were just pure struggle of who am I? What do I want to be? What impact do I want to make on the world? And I had different ideas, just ranging all over the place, but I never pulled the trigger on entrepreneurship. I said, I want to do something where I'm passionate about it and I love to do it. Because if you don't, and many people out there create businesses, they're wildly successful of things they just kind of like. But for me, I believe that if I did something I wasn't passionate about, it's really easy to quit when things don't go well. And you're going to have hardship and things are not going to go well. You might be the next person that's a 6-month success and you hit $1 million or whatever it is, but more than likely, you're going to have to put in sweat equity. You're going to have to put in work. So fast forward to December of 2016, like I said, I'm working in the cubicle. And I was always big on social media, loved sports, been a Gamecock fan my entire life, born and raised. And it's kind of funny how sometimes what you're meant to do, your dharma, as I like to say, right? What you're called to do and positively impact others, sometimes it's just right in front of you. And that's how it was for me. I was always on social media. I was a consumer before I was a producer, so I would listen to podcasts, and excuse me, I feel like I've rushed ahead. So the Spurs Up Show is my business. It's a Gamecocks, South Carolina Gamecocks media entity that focuses on, but not limited to, podcasts, live shows, events, obviously social media, merchandise. And so I was a consumer of those things. And I always felt like it was something I could get into and start, but it's hard to start. It's hard to start from zero because the objective feels so insurmountable. It feels so tough to climb that mountain. And again, I mentioned that one of my greatest assets was starting from zero because I only had anywhere to go but up. For many people, I know it's tough because you're halfway up the mountain and you realize maybe a different path will get you to that summit, but you're already halfway up. It's hard to start over for many people. So anyways, I'm on social media one day, and there's an entity called Armchair All-Americans, December of 2016. They're just looking for a South Carolina guy. They've got like 4,000 followers on social media, which isn't a ton, in the grand scale of things. And they have a South Carolina page that has 20 followers on Twitter. They have no Instagram. They have no Facebook. TikTok wasn't even a thing. They have no YouTube. They have no anything. But they say, hey, you can run this page, and you have full creative control, and you can do whatever you want. And I was like, cool. I'll do what I have to do 9 to 5, do what I love to do the rest of the time. And so I started. I remember texting my buddies early in that process, just, hey, look at this article I wrote. I'll never forget the first article I wrote, but just texting my buddies, hey, listen to this show. We started the podcast April of 2017. I remember hitting 100 downloads and just thought that was awesome. I remember it took a year on Twitter to hit 1,000 followers, and I cracked a bottle of champagne. I was so excited. I'm not even joking. I thought that was the biggest deal in the world, and, you know, at the time it was. It was a huge victory. It was a huge success. From there, fast forward, got the LLC for the business, and it was interesting early on. You know, people ask me, when did you know? Like, when did you know to start seeking funding, or when did you know to take it, go full time? And I tell people this because the number one question I get is, how do you make money? And I know I'm jumping all over the place, so I do apologize. That's just kind of how I operate. People ask me all the time, how do you make money? When should you start asking? When should you start seeking out sponsorship, partnership, whatever it might be? Because that's a big component of my business. I don't think there's a follower count. There's not a number of years invested. When you think you know in your heart of hearts you have something of great value, when you can give value back. Again, I didn't love working in the corporate world, but I did work in sales and digital marketing. So I learned about what a good deal is and what a bad deal is and what it means to drive value for an end consumer. That was one of the things I didn't love. Was anybody who's worked in sales, you know, it's just all about getting the deal. It's not really about the success of the other person, right? I mean, unfortunately, I sold some deals in marketing where I knew these real estate agents were getting screwed, but that's kind of neither here nor there. So I embraced the opportunity and was excited at the opportunity to know that what I was doing had value. I was generating an audience that really took my word, took it as gold, and you know, whatever that service was or business was, I was very careful who I partner with. Did it serve my end consumer? Did it serve my audience? So got the LLC November of 2018, moved to beautiful Columbia, South Carolina, August of 2019, and from there began to do it full time. I skipped over a fun part, though. That summer of 2019, how did I get here? Well, you got to make money somehow, because a business without money is a hobby. It's not a business. So I worked in the golf industry in college, caddy out at a golf course. I'm a big golfer, along with was a baseball guy, but big golfer, and went to New York, worked in the Hamptons for 2 months, built up a little nest egg to be able to make the move and make the jump, because I wanted to do it that badly. I was ready. And got to Columbia August 2019 and immediately became the Firewall Muschamp guy for anybody who's familiar with Gamecocks football. I was immediately that guy. It was kind of funny how that worked out. So I built my business off of the back of some very bad football teams. So there's no amount of adversity that can bring me down, I assure you. Then we got into 2020 and it was COVID. Wasn't sure we were going to have sports. I remember sitting there in my house in Columbia thinking, man, if we don't have football season, that is the product, that is the subject matter. What are we going to do? But thankfully we did, and through consistency, mass amounts of content creation, we were able to grow and thrive and succeed, and also be willing to evolve and change, and always looking for new ways and creative ways to do things, not being attached to being right necessarily. You know, I look at what I do as an art. It is art. And not being attached to an end result or an end outcome, not being attached to if the audience is going to like it. I give opinions knowing that the audience isn't going to like it. But what I'm dedicated to is to the truth, and to my work, and to the art, and self-expression, and creative control. And the beautiful thing about that is that work can then be articulated and criticized and consumed in any way the audience wants to. And that's the beautiful thing. That literally is the definition of art. Last year, we had a year of abundance. You've probably seen some Beamer Ball merchandise floating around. You've probably seen some of our merchandise. You know, positive momentum's a beautiful thing. But again, it takes years of sweat equity and work, and especially when you're on the journey of a creator, to build an audience and to build an entity to where, you know, what you say resonates in the space. And so, you know, it's people think success looks like this, and we all know it doesn't, right? Normally, and how my journey was, you kind of just stay flatline, and all of a sudden you shoot up. Because again, you stack good days on good days, you focus on the work, not the end result, and then one day you look up and you're the biggest and best entity out there, nobody can touch you. And I'm confident in saying that's where we are right now. And that's no shot at anybody else, but there's nobody that does what I do or can do what I do. So last year was a great year of abundance, the merchandise side of the business, podcasts, partnerships, you name it. This year's been interesting. This year has been a year of great abundance. You know, I met the person I'm confident in saying I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. We have a beautiful home and 2 gorgeous dogs, and business is great. It's also been a year of adversity and learning, and I've learned some things about investments, and sometimes not all investments, you know, pan out well, and sometimes you take risks, and as long as you learn lessons from those things, there's no such thing as taking a loss, right? It's very easy to wake up and stay motivated and stay consistent when you lead with gratitude and perspective, which is what I've always done from the beginning. You know, I was just grateful for the opportunity that one person would tune in. And I'm grateful for each and every single one of you out here. I've learned, you know, I throw my own events. Guys, I've thrown an event and nobody showed up. And you have to embrace that and be okay with that. And so you learn the value of, and my mindset from the beginning as a creator was, if one person hears this, sees this, and they find value in it, then I won. And so it's very easy to keep going when you have that mindset and you have that mentality. If you set these unfair expectations, and again, you're attached to an end result and an outcome, that's normally when people, they say, I want to do what you do. I want to be an influencer, or whatever you call it. Please don't call me an influencer. I want to, you know, start a podcast or start an entity. Okay. Are you willing to eat shit for 5 years? Excuse my French. Are you? Especially if you want to do it full time. Especially if you want to monetize it, build it to something of that value. So I've given you some of the past and the present, and now for the future, which I'm excited to share, because I really haven't shared this publicly, even on my own platform. I've teased it very briefly. And again, I'm not saying this is happening tomorrow, but I see this in the very near future. You know, the reason that the Spurs Up Show and what I do has been able to succeed is because I don't just think as a fan, although I am one. I think as an entrepreneur. And I have entrepreneurial goals and aspirations. And in the beginning, and still my goal to this day, is wake up every day, do what I love to do. That's the overwhelming goal. But right, it's okay to have goals in business, goals as an entrepreneur. Aspirations to make $1 million in a year. There's nothing wrong with that. We are humans. We resist. That's what we do every day. We resist. As the Stoics say, you weren't made to stay in the bed under the warm covers. Get up. Be a human. And so with that being said, anybody who's followed my content knows I've leaned much, much more, and my objectivity has really grown over the years. As much of a fan of South Carolina as I am, I've embraced getting outside of just the South Carolina scope. Most notably the SEC, and talking the entire conference, and that is something that is at the forefront. Again, I won't go into a crazy amount of details because not all those details are ironed out, but I've seen what we've done with one team, with one city, with one state, and the value it's brought to so many people across the great state of South Carolina, and I just can't say thank you enough, because without all those who show love and support to what I do, it would not be possible. We couldn't wake up and do it on a daily basis for a living. So I've seen that and I've felt that, and over the last year and a half or so, the gears have been turning. If this works so well for South Carolina and these people, why can't it work for others? Why can't it positively impact others? So I would say don't be surprised in the next year if you see us rebrand from the Spurs Up Show to a more all-encompassing SEC entity. Because again, I do have aspirations of going on a national scale, taking what I do and taking it to the next level. And so that'll be a risk. And that's what you have to do as an entrepreneur, take risks. And you have to feel it in your gut and feel it in your heart and follow that. And again, you're going to have so many questions in the beginning about, you're going to want all the answers right away, and you just have to embrace that you're not going to have them. You have to embrace the suck, because you are going to suck. It is what it is. You are going to suck. My first couple of podcasts, the first probably 100, they're terrible. They're absolutely terrible. But you just keep going. And one of my mantras and favorite things to say is just start. Just start. Whatever you have, just start. Because the worst thing that can happen is you get a couple years down the road or however long it is, and one of two things is going to happen. Either that thing works out, or you're going to have learned so much along that journey you can take your experiences and pivot and go do something else. And, maybe that's what you were meant to do, and that's what you were meant to do all along. I'm a big believer in manifestation, the universe. I don't think there's any mistakes. So, again, I appreciate each and every single one of you that has braved the cold, first off. It is chilly. I don't think we were expecting this in Columbia. It's really hard to encapsulate a 7-year journey in a 30, 45-minute, whatever conversation. I definitely want to take some questions if you guys have any, because I believe in open-ended banter. I always say the beauty is in the banter, and much like my show, it's very fun when a question will lead down a different path where it uncovers something else and it triggers something in my mind or the mind of the consumer. But I would say whatever that thing is that you have, again, your passion is for you, your purpose is for others. And that's the beautiful thing about what I get to do, is that I see the positive impact it has on other people. The entertainment that we provide, the conversation, the camaraderie, the relationships I've created, that's the most rewarding part through what I do and what we've done and what we've built. And it's really, really special. It's really special. So the joy is in the journey. I'm enjoying every step of the way. So with that, I appreciate you guys. And if anybody's got any questions, I'd love to answer them. Again, I know that was a lot, and there's a lot in the story I didn't even really mention, but for the sake of it, we'll go right here. That's a great question. So how do I stay excited all the time? Yeah. And especially early on, I think is what you're really referring to the most too, because it's, when you get to the point we're at now, knowing that I throw up a reel on Instagram and it's going to get 10,000 views, it's easy to stay motivated when you're seeing those kind of numbers. And I've been there early on, you're getting 1 like, 2 likes, and especially if it's something where you're taking great amounts of time, you're investing time and energy into creating this thing that you think is so awesome, and it doesn't maybe get the reception you would think. Like I mentioned, I think it's about staying detached from the end result and really just being committed to the work and knowing that, and maybe you don't know, but because I was going to say knowing it's going to pay off, but maybe you don't know that. But you can also look at it as an opportunity, like even if it doesn't get that reception, like, because so many people out there are trying to make that post to go viral. That was never my mindset. My mindset was, I'm going to win with mass content creation and consistency. Because at some point, somebody's going to notice, right? We used to say all the time in baseball, golf, whatever sport it is, you're good enough, they're going to find you. No matter what level you're at, they're going to find you. So if you're the best at what you do and you're the only one that can do what you do, and you are, because you have one fingerprint, one set of DNA, like you are unique to you. I think a lot of people miss that. I'm just like everybody else. You're literally completely unique. The world tells us that we're all the same. It's just the furthest thing from the truth. So you can't be attached to the end result, and I think comparison is the thief of joy. So if you're looking at other people on social media, like, look how many likes they got, or look what they did, that is a one-way ticket to misery. So using, especially the early days, to sharpen your craft, always be self-reflecting and, using self-analysis to say, what did I do here that I like, that I don't like, what can I do better? And also look at other people from the standpoint of, I don't want to be like them, but do they do things that I like their style and way of doing that? I'm not going to copy them, but I'm going to maybe incorporate that and be like a sponge and use that. Maybe there's some things I don't like that I'm going to stay away from. But it's a challenge early on. It's a grind. And I would say this too, like, be creative with it. You know what I mean? Like, try different avenues. Try different things. Don't be attached to being right, or like this one way of doing things is how I have to attack. Because social media, I mean, it's ever evolving. It's ever changing. I've never been someone that focused on really the algorithms. I mean, outside of, you see like, okay, reels are responding better now than anything else, or if it's graphics tomorrow, like you see that. But, I think, again, using those early days to work on your craft, your creativity, and don't expecting results overnight. And, again, comparison's the thief of joy. And just knowing that in your heart of hearts, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, what you're called to do, your dharma, if you will. So, yeah, we'll go right here. So that's a great question. Was Twitter, which is now known as X, that's where I started. Yeah, that was because again, there was no Instagram, Facebook, or anything else. So naturally, that was the one I started on. In the sports realm, right? And so back to your content point, your content question, based off your industry, it could be different. Graphics may work better if you're a real estate agent or whatever it might be. So Twitter works great for sports. It doesn't work so well for some other entities or businesses or sectors, industries, whatever. But Twitter's great for sports. People go there for it's the water cooler of our society. People want to talk, conversate, banter. Some people want to troll. Some people want to make themselves feel better about themselves by, talking crap. Like, that's what some people use it for. So naturally, that's what existed. And, I knew it was important. So that's just kind of what I picked up and ran with. I didn't start pushing Instagram or Facebook until about a year later. Or about a year and a half. And interestingly enough, Instagram grew much more rapidly than Twitter did. And I think that's just because, I think Twitter, there's sort of, especially when you're smaller, there's like an ego and well, I'm not going to follow them unless they follow me back. Like you have to fight that kind of stuff. Instagram is more so like, if I see something cool, I'm going to follow the account. So that's the type of stuff you deal with, especially early on. Once you get to where we are, like 40,000, it's kind of nice how you just kind of get the benefit of the doubt. Okay, well, this account must know what they're talking about because they had a lot of followers, which is a fallacy on social media because there's some people out there that have 1 million followers that have no idea what they're doing. So, I mean, it is what it is. Either way, though, to your point, Twitter is what I started on, but I always believe, too, in being well-rounded and being all the entities because I felt like there's some people that use this, that don't use this, that use this, that don't use this, and like wherever I can touch people and wherever I can reach out to people, engage with people. Like I want to use all avenues, right? I never believed in, it's kind of like most great entrepreneurs. I would say most 7-figure entrepreneurs, they have like 7 streams of income on average. They're not narrow-minded. So I always felt like that way in content too. Having multiple channels was always going to be the most beneficial. But Twitter was definitely where I started. I think picking one is a good idea to not feel overwhelmed, but understanding, you don't want to limit yourself in that regard. So right here. I think it does, yeah. So everything I've done has been self-taught. And two apps. I'll put you on some free game right now. The two apps that I use probably the most on my phone are PicArt is what I use to, for example, like I'll post video, I'll screen record the video in PicArt. There is a section, and you can probably do this on, I know you can, on Premiere Pro, but it's really easy on your phone. There's a crop tool, and you can crop it to fit the format of Instagram Reels. Because, like, we're all consumers, right? I mean, I learn as being a consumer as well, and so you hate it when you're, I don't know, you're scrolling on TikTok and the video's not formatted right. It's just like, it's not aesthetically pleasing. Like, it's almost like recording a podcast and not having good audio. It's a no-no. Like, you need to invest in a good microphone. I've got a guy I bring on my show weekly. I don't know what his problem is. But I'm going to buy him a microphone for Christmas, I think. So yeah, PicArt, and then GoDaddy Studio is the other one. That's like Photoshop for dummies. The most time-consuming part of that one and making the graphics, and I've got a guy now that helps me with graphics, and that's, you know, sort of one of the stages I'm at in entrepreneurship is delegating more and realizing I don't have to do everything. And I'm going to continue to do that because flexibility and efficiency have become a huge focus priority for me over the last year and a half or so. But GoDaddy Studio is great. Once you get those templates made, whatever graphic it is you want to make, it's actually very quick and very easy. And obviously that comes from, I mean, I remember it was COVID. It was 2020 and it was the summer, and I was like, well, I mean, I've got a lot of time because there's no sports happening. It's the middle of the summer, and I had a buddy that was making graphics, and I was like, hey, what do you use? And he put me on that, and I played with it for a really long time. And again, like the podcast, like anything else, the graphics in the beginning, they weren't very good. They didn't look all that great, but I started and got a little bit better and a little bit better and a little bit better, and now you see our graphics, and they look pretty good. So at least I think so. So those are the two, though, PicArt and GoDaddy Studio. I use those like religiously right here. That's a great question. So, and especially the dopamine high that social media can provide. And say that again, how do you quantify success, separating it from engagement necessarily? That's a great question because, you know, my business is housed on social media necessarily. I mean, is it successful if it's not generating enough to, for example, be monetized, right? That's a great question. I mean, again, for me early on, it was about, you know, I'm thinking back to when I lived in Charlotte and I was working a 9-to-5, and the thing that came so seamlessly with my business is I was a sports guy already. So I was like, all I'm doing is taking the conversations I had with my buddies and speaking them into a microphone. So I think that helped me early on, especially because, like, well, I'd be doing this anyways. I mean, I remember having a conversation with my buddy in Charlotte. We were at the French Quarter, if anybody's familiar with that. We were having lunch. It was, I think, December of 2017, and he was asking me about, what are you going to do with that thing you're doing, whatever? And I'm like, you know, I'm going to give it through baseball season, and just whatever happens. Hey, if it's just kind of stagnant, I'll just probably quit and focus on being a corporate drone. Thankfully, I didn't do that. But again, it's being able to count the small incremental wins early. Like, I told myself, as long as I'm growing, even if it's about one person a day, I'm going to keep going because I'd be foolish to stop when people are seeing it, engaging with it. And so, you know, one of the cool things about my growth as an entrepreneur, my growth as a human being has followed. And so you do have to detach yourself. It's very easy to fall in that trap of, well, my value as a human, my self-worth is directly tied to how many likes I get. So many people fall into that trap. And understanding that, you know, that means literally nothing. You know, I say to people that I don't care what anyone thinks about me, but I care very deeply what those who know me think about me. And so at the end of the day, while I value the end consumer, they are dead last in my creative process and my thoughts and decision making. And that's a shift I've had to make because before, in the beginning especially, I was like, I want to be the most engaging. I'm replying to every comment. I'm replying to every post. And I'm asking them for feedback on what I should be doing. And I still do take feedback. I'm still open to feedback. But you also have to trust your gut and instinct and know that you're making the best possible decisions for you, your business, what you're doing. So to your point, I mean, that is a great point, detaching from your self-worth being tied, even in just what you do, period. How much money you make, what car you drive, what have you. And so my self-worth has always been reflected in what do those who are closest to me think about me, and am I positively impacting the world and making the world a better place through my calling. That's so, and again, that takes a lot of self-work. And I mean, I'm big into stoicism, and I've read plenty of different philosophy books and listened to many different talks, if you will. Naval Ravikant, somebody I love listening to. I could go down the list of influential entrepreneurs, angel investors, what have you, that I've listened to over the years that have helped me along that journey. So, but not tying your self-worth into the dopamine high of likes it's a challenge, but one you have to master. Absolutely. So, yeah, right here. Yeah, so it's to the point here, and that's what differentiates what I do, my content. I'm not a box score guy. There's plenty out there that will just highlight the box score and here's what happened. Being able to formulate an opinion and stand on that opinion and have critical analysis and takes, and that's what separates me and what I do. So to your point, and it's the way I've just always been wired. I think there's people out there that they want to live in the comfortable bubble, if I could spit it out. The comfort of, not towing the line of, again, having an opinion, having critical analysis and takes and what have you. And a lot of things I say people agree with, and a lot of things I say people get pissed off and they let me know about it, right? So it's being willing to stand on that and, know that's creative expression. And again, the beauty is that I can have a creative expression, that creative act, that art form, if you will, and you have to detach from the outcome because the end consumer, the audience, they can consume it and interpret it any way they want. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of times I've said something, made a piece of content that I had one intention for it, that I woke up the next day and social media was in flames. And it was getting spun as outrageous claims on what that meant or what have you. And that's why you have to be detached from it, because that's what keeps you going, because especially early on, you'd be like, man, I don't want to deal with this. So I've just always been wired that way, though, man, to be, committed to the truth and my takes and analysis and opinions. And that's what I'm committed to, is the art form in the purest sense, and just my self-expression. And thank goodness that people are able to criticize and critique that. And at the end of the day, when it comes to content creation, being controversial is fine. The one thing you don't want to be is boring. And that's what the box score banter is, with all due respect. So, I try to be, again, as entertaining and informative as possible. I think we've done a really good job of accomplishing that. Good. Again, thank you all so much. Appreciate it. Excited to meet each and every single one of you. Thank you all so much for the time.